Hi, everyone. David Kessler here. So glad you can join us. I'm here will be talking with two wonderful people that I know in my world. And so, Maria, nice to see you. Lauren, nice to see you. You're going to hear and know much more about them. So, take a moment and find your way on. I didn't even give you two a chance to say hello. Maria, hi there.
Hi, it's good to see you again, and thanks for having me. And this time we have Lauren, which I'm so excited about.
I know. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, good to be here with you both.
Nice to be here with both of you. So as you're coming on, just find your way. I'll check to see if I can find us too. I'll read any questions you have from here. So just know if you see me looking down, I'm not multitasking. I'm reading comments as they come in. People will say hello and where they're from. Today, we're going to be talking about the death of a spouse. And I think it's just such a brutal, brutal loss. I mean, they're all brutal losses, but so brutal. And I wanted to have two people on who have written about this or experienced it to share about it. And so I'll give everyone a chance to find their way. I'd like to just say hello to the people who are coming on since we're still not physically connected well. We can at least virtually connect. So Diane's here from Virginia. Martha's here from Dublin, California. Diane's here from SoCal. Well, SoCal is here, so hopefully some more people will find their way on. Hi, Robin from New York. Good to see you. Hi, Jennifer from, I think it might be Alaska. Lynn's here from the Bay Area. John's from Massachusetts. Jolene's from Phoenix. Welcome. Hi, Gloria from Montreal, Canada. Anna from California. I'm glad to see everyone coming in from so many different places. Hi, Dolores. Good to see you. Neither of you you're both too young to remember, but when I was growing up, there was a thing called Romper Room.
Oh, I remember.
She would always pretend like she's seeing people. So that's Fiorella's here from New Jersey, Janice from Vegas, Joyce from Illinois, Nancy from Texas, Dolores is from LA. Stephanie says, I was fortunate to have Lauren as our grief specialist instructor at our house. An unforgettable and invaluable experience. There you go, Lauren.
That's so nice, Lauren.
Hi, Stephanie.
Sarah's from Oklahoma. Andrea's from Tennessee. Ross is from Texas. I'm so glad. Joanne's here from New York. People are coming on from all over. So nice that you're all joining us. And many of you will watch this in the replay. So I'm glad you're all here tonight. If you're new to the group, you can say hello. You can tell us you're new, but you don't have to. I always say some of us sit in the front row. Some of us sit in the back. There's no one right way to do this group, just like there's no one right way to do grief. We all do it differently. I like to come on and bring different voices to join me because there's also no one voice in grief. And it's good to get so many different experiences of how people deal with loss and handle loss. So I'm so thrilled to have two amazing people here. My friend Maria's here from Fox 11, and she's had me on her TV show there, so I'm thrilled to have her back here. And Lauren is here, and Lauren's from Our House, which is an incredible grief support organization in Los Angeles. And we're here because of this amazing new book that has come out, You Can't Do It Alone, that you two have put together based on your experiences, Maria.
Yes.
And we're all here because someone we love has died. So that's what binds us together. And we're going to talk about how you two are helping the world now with this new book. So we'll start in just a moment. Let me see who else joined us. Gail from Massachusetts, Deborah from NoHo. That's North Hollywood. I know that. Anna's from Adelaide, where it's 9:30 in the morning. She put 9:30 because she knows whenever I see someone from Australia, I go, what time is it there? Karen's from Los Angeles. Kate's from Oceanside. Became a widow 2 years, 4 months ago. The most brutal and horrific. Absolutely. Katie from Rochester. Christine from Westchester County, New York. Colette from PA. Diane from Fort Worth, Kitty from Puerto Rico. So glad everyone's here. Well, what brings us all together is someone we love who has died. So I like to take a moment of silence just to send them love wherever they may be. Because I believe when someone we love dies, we don't quit loving them. I don't even think they quit loving us. So let's take a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you all for that. We were just talking about Father's Day before we came on. Father's Day, lots of challenges and holidays, boy, for everyone. So I always say there's like a collective breath after each holiday, like done with that one. Okay. Yeah, done. Father's Day.
Yeah.
Can breathe to the next one. Oh, wait, July 4th, right around the corner. So Maria, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so sorry you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just for folks who maybe haven't had the pleasure of hearing you speak before or don't know your story, would you just tell us a little bit about your story and how you've entered this world of grief?
Well, much like Kate from Oceanside, I too am a widow, and my late wonderful husband died in 2015, December of 2015, and about 18 months, it was 18 months exactly before that, we got this awful diagnosis. And prior to that, my husband was very healthy. He was young. We were new parents to a young, little rambunctious, a little 3-year-old at the time. And we decided to take this trip to Paris together. We had never been together to Paris. It was our first time. And it was on this trip that I realized there was something wrong with him. He just was not behaving in his usual way. We were working so much leading up to this time, so I guess I didn't really see all the signs, but it was on this trip that I realized he needed to see a doctor when he came back. He was not just forgetful, but he was acting very strangely on our trip, and it got progressively worse each day we were there, and it came to, I think, 2 days before we left, and I was literally in tears, and I made him promise to go see a doctor as soon as we got back. And exactly 2 weeks after we landed, he saw a doctor, which referred him to another doctor, and ultimately got an MRI on his brain, and we realized that he had very large, deep tumors in his brain, and they were inoperable. And he was diagnosed with a terminal, incurable disease called glioblastoma. It's very devastating brain cancer, and there is no cure. And so we went through all of the denial, the anger in the beginning, and asked all the questions of why him, why us. And it was during that time we were able to get past, I guess, the anger and the denial, which never really leaves you, by the way, which we've talked about. But we somehow got to a place where we did find joy every day. I just didn't think that was possible, but we did. And we were able to actually make some beautiful memories those 18 months, for which I'm so grateful for. And during that time, we asked our why questions, and we asked why it was us. And maybe it was because I wore a microphone every day and worked on the news, and maybe because my husband was a writer, and that we needed to maybe do our part and write about this disease and bring awareness to this incurable, horrible disease, and maybe try to find more funding and research to find a cure, because it is one of the least funded diseases with federal dollars. And so we wanted to shine that light on brain cancer and glioblastoma. And originally he was supposed to write it because we never gave up hope that he would survive and be one of the rare, or one of the few, that actually did live a long time with this disease. And in a way, he did. I think he was given months to live if we didn't seek treatment, like 3 months or something like that. And if we did seek treatment, something like 9 to 12 months, and he ended up being with us for 18 months. And so a year after he died, I remembered that promise that we made to each other and a promise I made to myself. And so I started writing this book. And I hope this book will be a lamppost for others who have to walk this journey like we did. And not just for someone that is going through terminal illness, but for anyone suffering any kind of loss.
First of all, just so people, I want to make sure the book certainly deals with grief and loss, but it also deals with having a loved one who's ill, correct?
That's correct. A large part of the book also talks about caregiving, caregiving for my husband, and also how to navigate that crazy world with a young child, and what to say to a 3-year-old about his father, what to say to a 4-year-old that his father's going to die and what to say to a 5-year-old when his father died. And that's where the amazing Lauren Schneider comes in, and she was amazing to come in and provide this wealth of knowledge about not just children and having to talk to family and young kids about this whole process, but actually take our story and broaden it out so that you can have some very universal lessons from what we learned.
And Lauren, you are from our house. For anyone who doesn't live in Los Angeles, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about our house. Just so folks also know, I've known our house and have done things with them for years here in town. And when I had to deal with my own grief, I called up Freda Wasserman, who is been one of the amazing people there. So I turned to you guys also. So I'd love for you to talk about it and you and how you two connected.
Well, it's because of our house really that Maria and I came together, because our paths kept crossing, through our house. And I've run the children's program there for about 18 years, and we're a full service, so to speak, grief support center. We help people all across the lifespan that have had somebody close to them that died, with kids as young as 4, all the way up through later life. And we do only support, not mental health services. And there are grief support programs across the United States that are similar to what we do. And there are registries there. People could call us if they wanted to find a program in their own city. We can connect them with a program like ours.
I just want to say, and I did meet Lauren through Freda Wasserman indirectly through another therapist, and that's how I met Lauren. But I just want to say thank you to all of those who've actually taken the step to come and join us this evening, because that's a really big step, especially for those who have just come on for the first time. I know that I was hesitant to go in the beginning to seek support, not just from our support group, but even therapy, which I really, really am a huge supporter of. And I just want to say that it's amazing that you guys are here tonight. And I think it's a really important step to be here for healing.
And I'm sure, as anyone can tell you, and even I don't know if you had this experience, Lauren, but I've been saying support groups, counseling for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my son died, and I'm like, wait, am I going to go to a support group? Am I going to go to a counselor? I'm like, I'm going to do what I tell everyone else to do. And it was life-saving for me. So Lauren, tell us a little bit about what you brought to this project, to the book and your work.
Well, my job was relatively easy because Maria and Sean had done such a good job of working with Gus with the help of their therapist, Betsy Lautman. They had been working from the time that Sean was diagnosed with Gus in really the same way that I would have recommended they work with him, with being completely honest, but speaking with him in very age appropriate language that he could understand about what was happening with his dad, and but keeping him very well informed throughout the whole process. And so for me to step in, it was a very natural process to, like Maria said, to take what happened in each chapter, broaden it a little bit so that it was applicable to other types of illness and other age children, and provide a roadmap that other families could use who were going to be dealing with a similar situation in their own lives. So it was taking Maria's very personal memoir and just making a little bit more of a general application from there.
Yeah, I just want to add that Lauren has been amazing about how just even in conversation with her throughout writing the book, how to speak to children, but it's also how you communicate to your circle of friends and family. And I think that's so important. And I've heard from other support groups that I've been in how families have kind of fallen apart because of the loss, whether it's through the diagnosis and the treatment, and then even thereafter. And I just feel so sad about that. And I just credit part of my success with my family and my circle of friends and my village, I think, is the ability to communicate. And I think what Betsy really also helped me with was not just how to communicate with Gus, but how to communicate to our family and our friends.
Right. So that you were all on the same page. And, Maria, you were lucky because you had a great support system, and not everybody has that. And that's when going for joining a support group outside of your current family and, personal support network is so important, because you really do need to have some people that you can meet with regularly to provide that support.
Something I see all the time is the people feel like their friends don't get it. Their friends won't let them tell the story. The friends, want them to cheer up. And there is just something about other grievers get it. Other people in grief get it, and grief needs to be witnessed. And there's something about that support group. And you have a support group that's still in touch, don't you, Maria?
I do. I write about them a little bit in the book, and I was so fortunate to have found them at the UCLA brain cancer or brain tumor caregiver support group. And when I first met them, I sort of was the last person to come in, and the way the timing and everything worked, they were a little bit ahead of me. So they literally were my lampposts when it came to the disease, when it came to finding clinical trials and treatments. And there were many times where I would go to the group and I would leave going, why did I go? I didn't get the answers I wanted. I feel like that was kind of a waste of my time. But, and after I realized it really was good for me to go. Just the mere fact that I was away from the house for 2 hours really was good for me. And even though you feel at the moment that it is not good, it really is good for you. And I know how good it was for me. To this day, we still get together. It's almost 5 years this December. And I call them my samurai, because I feel like we are these warriors to have gone through together what we went through with our spouses. We still get together to this day, and our conversations have changed a little bit. We still have tears, but we also have a lot of new memories that we talk about and share.
One of the things you both mentioned, I think it'd be just for people watching, because I know this comes up a lot, and I deal with this all the time, and I'm sure you two do also. Someone's ill, someone's dying, someone's died unexpectedly. We decide what story we're telling the kids because we don't want them to know the truth. It's so harsh, and we need to protect them. And, I'm like gently say, do you think you're going to be able to keep that story under wrap? Oh, yeah. And I'm like, you know, I've seen it unfold where the real story gets out about 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you say to people who, and it's out of a good place, we all want to protect our kids. We don't want our kids to hurt, and they want to make up a better version than what life is. Now, obviously, we have to say it age appropriately, but Lauren, what do you say to the folks who want to make up the better version?
Well, like you said, David, the kids are always going to find out the truth. And the way I always get the parent or the guardian to change their mind is I tell them, well, first of all, the kids, when they find out that people have not been telling them the truth, of course, they're going to experience a whole range of emotions that they didn't need to, like anger, their ability to trust people is going to be severely impacted. And what goes by the wayside once you lose the ability to trust people is your ability to form those intimate partner relationships. So you tell an adult that their child is going to have trouble with intimate partner relationships when they grow up, that gets their attention pretty fast. So that to me has always been my I don't know what the word is, my special card that I can play if I can't convince somebody sooner than that. But they do know the truth, and in all of my years of working with kids, very often I find out, even with really little ones, that they actually do know the truth, even if they haven't been told it, because they are very observant, which, Maria, you must know. Gus overhears stuff that you don't realize that he's hearing in the house, and you find out later.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always knew kids were like sponges, but it's so true. They have, I think they're smarter than adults at most times, actually, and we don't give them enough credit. And maybe it was because my experience as a child of losing my father. I was actually not too much older than Gus. My birth father died suddenly in an accident when I was 7, just before my eighth birthday. And I remember how terrified I was. And I remember that there was a lot of confusion. Now, naturally, it wasn't the same in terms of the circumstances that happened with us, but it was just something that I remember, that fear that I had. And I just didn't want Gus to have any of those feelings. Most of all, mistrust or not being able to trust me. So that's been the focus from the beginning. Both Sean and I, we always wanted Gus to have the best and healthiest experience. So I'm just so glad that we had help and counseling to be able to make sure we found the language to tell him. For instance, just telling him after that diagnosis, we couldn't hide something like that. I mean, everyone was coming over immediately. Everyone was crying. And so we did have to sit him down, and he was 3. And we told him the truth, and that Daddy went to the doctor and he had cancer. And what is cancer? It's a disease. It's something that Daddy has. It's something that you don't have, and it's something that Mommy doesn't have, and you can't catch it. And so it was very simple. And when he was done with his questions, we let it go. But we were really, really honest with him from the beginning. So there was no confusion.
So important. So one of the things that I also think about is we always get asked, which is the worst loss? My response is always, your loss is the worst loss. It's
Yeah,
always
that's good.
whatever it may be. And, while on one hand, I'm a big believer that grief is a no judgment zone. And if you compare in grief, the sad thing is if you win, you lose the comparison.
Right.
So, yet there are, because I've been building a program out recently about how to deal with this with different groups. While there is a uniqueness to all of our grief, to all of our pain, there's also a lot of differences to whether a parent dies or a child dies or a spouse dies. So talk to me about what are the differences for when a spouse dies, a partner dies.
I guess for me, Sean was my best friend, and he was with me 24/7. I know that my family members, like his brothers, who are very close to him, his parents, who were extremely close family, they've said to me, Maria, I can go home and sometimes I get into a routine, like before, and then I'll realize, oh my God, Sean's not here. For me, I can't go home and get into a routine because I'm in this place where Sean was involved with every action that I had. So losing him, sometimes it feels like 4 months ago than 4 years ago. It really does. And I guess looking at Gus every day and seeing him grow up is kind of a mirror to me every day that he's not here, because he's every bit his dad in personality. And when those feelings creep in, like they have been, it's been Father's Day this weekend, and I had such a huge cry on Saturday. I couldn't contain it, and so I'm kind of glad that it all came out on Saturday instead of yesterday. But I just let it come. I've learned this from you, David, as well, and I acknowledged it. And thankfully now it's starting to leave me almost as quickly as it comes. But I definitely acknowledge it, and it's definitely there. And I look for the gratitude and how grateful I am that I have Gus and I have the love that I had with him.
Is there anything, Lauren, you've seen that you think that's a different sort of piece? I mean, obviously, when a spouse dies, it is different from other losses.
I really don't like to compare, like you said, initially. It's somebody's going to be unhappy whenever you do that.
Well, let me tell you, we have lots of sessions on here about children and parents. So this is the moment to talk about spouses. So don't worry about, I think there is something unique to other, losses that I think to name them sort of helps. And it's not saying that anyone's less than the other.
It's just, it's different dreams when your spouse dies. It's a different set of dreams than when your son dies. You have a whole set of dreams when David died that you had to let go of, and it's all pain and
right.
And,
but I think about security in our own grief, and here's what I mean about that. I'm secure enough in my own grief and my own connection with my son that Maria having pain around her husband dying, Sean, doesn't take away from my loss. And I don't think my loss takes away from hers. And I know that these are all unique. For instance, I have the situation where I go out or I'm on Facebook and I see everyone with their happy kids and I'm missing a kid. On the other hand, for you, Maria,
Yeah.
you may have a grief experience, but you're not missing the kid, you're missing the dad.
Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely correct. I didn't even think about that as much as I am right this moment. Thank you. You're so right.
Or you go to a party and
Mhm.
it seems like everybody has a date.
As a partner.
Yeah. But I'll tell you one thing that's interesting because, the groups at our house are led by volunteers
Right.
primarily. And that have, everybody wants to do the group for people Maria's age. We call them the Young Widowers groups. For spouses or partners under age 50 who've died. Everyone wants to do that group, or even the midlife, the 50s and 60-year-old spouse loss group. You know what group they don't want to do?
What group?
No, but yes.
Which one?
People never have wanted to do is the people who've had a child die.
Yeah.
So that speaks to just that so many people feel that that's the one type of grief that they themselves don't know that they could handle if it happened to them. So they don't know if they have the ability to support somebody going through that. And and I'm not saying that about me. I'm just telling you that across volunteers for years, that's been the case.
Very interesting. I didn't know that, but I can see that.
But then from the kids' perspective, I can tell you, for children, we say that the worst death that a child could experience is the death of a parent. The second worst is death of a sibling. But that being said, and this is for you, Maria, and people out there listening, 85 to 90% of children will adjust to their life without their parent who died. And you know this because it's in your book, without developing any form of mental illness whatsoever. And that's including depression or anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's where people use the word resilient to describe children in many situations, but kids, grieving children, or children are extremely resilient when it comes to adapting to their life without their parent who died.
And one of the things that I often get about that is sometimes I'll have grief experts go, don't say resilient, because then it makes people think that they don't need support. And I'm like, no, by saying kids are resilient, no one is saying you don't need to support them. Both things can be true. They're resilient and they need support.
Yes.
It's really awful thinking you're the only one who had a dad that died, though, or the only one who had a mom that died, and then they isolate at school, and so the opposite side of getting any support is a very dark place that you don't want to see any kids fall through the cracks and not getting any support.
Right. One of the couple other things that I've noticed, I'll be curious to see what you two think about, sort of as I've worked with people who have had a spouse die, that makes it a little bit different for them is, one, there's a loss we don't often talk about that's in that relationship that isn't in others. And that's the loss of the sex partner. And we often don't name that loss. And yet, it's something that we'll often be in our groups and we'll name the losses. And then someone will whisper to me afterwards, I forgot the loss of sex. Right. And so that's always there.
Yeah. The intimacy. Yeah.
The intimacy.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think comes up a lot is obviously for all of us, our group shifts. We have our group of friends. You know, I'm not going to be in the friends groups anymore who are my kids' age, my son's age, because it's uncomfortable for me and uncomfortable for them. At the same time, when we're talking about the death of a spouse, a partner, significant other, maybe you went out with couples and
Mhm.
all of a sudden you're the third wheel.
Yep.
And that's certainly an uncomfortable feeling people have talked about.
Yeah, I still feel uncomfortable even with our family, going, because we're all very close. And like I said, there's still moments where I run into the bathroom and cry when I'm at family events because I feel like I'm just half of something that's there. I really feel like something is missing. And I find myself looking for Sean at these events. Um, but it doesn't stop me from going, of course. But it's there. Honestly, I don't know what to do about it. And I think that's why I still go to, I mean, we have to keep going to counseling. Um, I don't know what to do about it, honestly. And we're going to go on a trip together coming up soon for the 4th of July. And I know those feelings are going to come up again. I don't know how to be ready for it again. I keep thinking, okay, this year, maybe it'll be different. Maybe this year I won't feel so much of half of something that's there. How do I do that? How do I stop those feelings? I don't
I
know.
wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would just have them.
Right?
I think feelings aren't right or wrong. They just are. We have the set of feelings we'd like to have, and then we have the set of feelings that we actually have.
Yeah. So it is just what it is, I guess.
But you said before, Maria, that sometimes the pain isn't there, that the cry, comes, but it leaves you faster. It doesn't come from as deep a place, maybe, or last as long.
Yes, that's true. I guess because now I'm learning to recognize them when they come, it feels like I can mark it. Whereas before, it sort of just was around all the time. It felt like so. Yeah, now I'm kind of realizing that it's leaving as almost as quickly as it comes because I'm marking it.
The other thing about grief as time goes on that's an interesting aspect is we often don't see it over time. That's why I love the idea of journaling and you having a book like this is, a lot of times, and we've talked about this with different people on this topic, that you'll have people early on a scale of 1 to 10, write down what their pain is. And
Hmm.
they'll go, it's 100.
Yeah.
Okay, on the scale of 1 to 10, it's 100. And they'll just go, it's all consuming.
Hmm.
Then somewhere down the road, whether it's a year, whatever, you'll say, what are you at now? And they'll go, oh my gosh, it's all consuming. Scale of 1 to 10, what is it? It's an 8, but it's all consuming. And they don't have the memory so many times that the 8 feels so all consuming, but it's not 100 anymore.
Good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your 8 when it's consuming you is an 8. And then even when it's a painful 6,
Hmm.
you forget it was an 8 once,
Hmm.
but whatever your pain is still gets your attention.
Yeah. I agree. I
And
agree.
then we have those Father's Days and anniversary that puts us back at the 10s.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep.
So there's a lot of folks on here who are saying they're newly bereaved. They've had a spouse recently die. What would you go back and want to say to someone who's in that new place?
Mm. Well, for me, I had these really unrealistic expectations after I marked year one. I really thought that after we um, had another service for Sean at the 1 year mark, I somehow thought, okay, we did it. We made it to year 1. And I'm going to be better now. It's going to be a downhill from here, right? The peak of that pain. And I got to tell you that it was worse the second year. I really felt worse in terms of the level of the pain that I had and loneliness. And I guess if anyone told me then that it would be worse, I don't know if I would have heard it. So I don't know if this will make a difference, but I guess just don't set expectations for yourself, because you might get really disappointed like I was. Year 3 came, and it wasn't quite as shocking to not be out of it, is the only thing that I can say. And just, if I could tell myself back then, is just don't be so hard on yourself, Maria. Just don't be so hard on yourself about feeling better.
Right. And it's interesting, that's true for you. One of the things that I often tell people is, years ago, there was a study that was done that asked which was the worst, the first year, the second year, or both years. And it came back 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And that for some people, the first year is the worst. For others, second year is the worst. Is that, so many times people go, oh no, the second year is going to be that bad too. Maybe it will for you, maybe it won't. I mean, each of us do this so differently.
Yeah.
Even in your own family, we all do this differently. One of the things I think about that year, especially in the old days where you would wear black.
Yeah.
Now everyone wears black. It's a statement. It's a fashion statement. It's not about grief. But while at the end of the year, you didn't have to take the black off. You could still wear it. But at that year, you were given permission to take it off. And you were given permission to live again. No one said the grief was over, but you were given permission to re-enter the world. How have you given yourself permission, Maria, to sort of re-enter the world and be a part of this now?
For me, my personal benchmarks included the book. I felt like at that 1 year when things were supposed to be better, it wasn't for me. And I dove into writing and journaling, which, whether the book was going to be published or not, I didn't know at the time. I just knew that I needed to write my feelings, write our story. And so that was, now that the book is done, I'm giving myself permission to hopefully be a little bit freer and to allow my heart to heal a little bit more. And I have to say that talking about it more and being able to talk about the book, and which is bittersweet, as you can understand, because I didn't want to mark my first book as being this book, because I'd always wanted to write a book. But I am hoping that I can continue to help other people and let my heart heal, because it does help. Like when I hear or read comments about, I understand what you're going through. I hear you, Maria. I like what you did there, and you're helping me understand that I'm not alone. It helps me so much. Right. So I hope this is the beginning of more healing.
Right. Lauren, anything you would add to all that?
I'm hoping if the people that tune in regularly to your show know there's just no time frame for grief, and that if you don't have an expectation that you're supposed to be over it by a certain time, that's gonna serve you much better, and that because you're going to have to tune out these people that expect certain things from you, like you have to, oh, you're still sad. I thought you're supposed to be over it, and all of these horrible messages and judgments and stuff that people have about grievers. And I mean, just think about Maria had to be out there in front of the camera while she was going through all this, which has made it so much harder than what the rest of us have to do when we're going through a deeply personal experience like grief. But yeah, so just to forget about, any kind of timetables that it's going to be unique for you. And also, if you are a parent, that the way your kids go through it is going to be completely different from you too. And if you have more than one, they are each going to be on their own journey also, that even the way they talk about the death of their parent or sibling is going to be different from each other. So there isn't any right or wrong way to do it or any time frame. And, just keep reminding yourself.
And I think I saw a comment saying, "Oh my gosh, it's so brutal at 6 months. Really, it's going to get worse?" Maybe not for you. Maybe not. I mean, it's literally different for everyone. And it's interesting. I think we hear what sort of our worst fear is, like, oh my gosh, because Maria, you're actually, from my experience of you, we have to hold grieving and living fully together.
Yeah.
And do you have joy?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, I have joy. Every day, I remember going through the diagnosis and treatments with Sean. Even toward the end of his life, we were able to find joy every day. And I think it is a choice to find that joy every day. There really is. And it can coexist, like you said.
And we're not saying to anyone who's newly bereaved, find your joy today. Just want to make sure you know it takes a while to get to that place. This is all a journey we each take. Right? And I think that, I just, as I see you work, as I see you doing the book, I see the light that you're bringing to the world. And that's really, because this can be a world in grief that can have darkness in it, and you bringing a light to people. And I've seen you sort of walk into the rooms at the studio and bring your smile, and I've seen you allow yourself to cry there, and even like talk to me on camera about grief. Like, I mean, and the other thing I think about is, like, one day you're just at work, you're doing your job, you're doing the weather, and in they drag this grief expert for another segment. I'm like, oh my gosh, what does that feel like?
As I've always been honest with Gus and how I've learned to be honest with him about things, I've always been honest also with our viewers, I guess, as much as I can, and my colleagues at work. So I guess I'm fortunate that I'm able to be who I am to a degree. Now, that being said, I still have to put my work hat on. And I think in a sense that made it easier because I can compartmentalize and I can put on my work hat and focus on that. But I'm also quite honest most times. So I cherish those moments. Like when you walk into the studio, to me, that was a gift. And I'm always looking at a learning experience with everything in life. So,
well, luckily you were open to it so many times. I don't know if you've had this experience, Laura, and you're just like doing something, whether you're at a studio or a grocery store or something, and you run into someone, they're like, oh, you're a grief expert here. This person needs you. And like, I'm like, I don't know that they want to need me in that moment,
Yeah. Well, and or you see something that you're sure is a sign. And I know, Maria, you talk about that, about the, signs, things that are meaningful for you and the environment.
Yes. Well, for instance, when David came into the studio, the first time that I met you, David, I think went into the green room and I told you the circumstances, right? That I was starting to finish up the book. And I said, I really need someone to read this and give me their honest feedback and review and some words of support. And I remember looking at different people who are in this field, and a Google search came up and it was your name. And I remember talking to Sean about it, which I talk to Sean all the time. I haven't changed that. He is my best friend. I talk to him every day for years. I didn't know how I was going to stop doing that. So I still do today. And I remember saying to him, I've got to get this guy, David. I need to meet this man, and I don't know how to do it. I've tried. I've called my agent, and I can't get a hold of him. And I'll never forget this. I go into work Monday morning, and I'm sitting in the makeup chair, and this producer comes in and says, "Okay, something yada yada yada. David is coming in. This expert and author." And I remember looking at the producer, and I said, "David who?" And they said, "David Kessler." And I went, "Oh my God, this is incredible." So I had to talk to you. I had to invite you back. I couldn't have let you go after just those few moments. So I learned several things from that. I was reminded of several things. And I hope for those of you who are watching this, talk out loud to your loved ones and ask them what you need to ask them, because if you really listen hard enough, I swear to you, they answer. If they can, they'll help, but they will. And that's how David and I first met. And I'm so happy and grateful for that.
You know, I will never forget. I think I did something on the channel about, I think it was the holidays. And then they said, would I come back, because you were going to talk about your experience?
Yeah.
Would I come back on and talk about it with you? And they said, you know, we'll have some people, her coworkers around in case it gets a little tough and all that. And one of the things I remember is talking to you, and you were so open and honest on camera, just like you are all the time. And I saw all your coworkers standing behind you there to support you, and it was really beautiful.
I know. I'm so lucky. Thank you.
So we are lucky to have both of you in our world. So Maria, thank you for this new book. Check it out. I will put in the comments the link to Amazon to find it. You can't do it alone. Beautiful, beautiful new book. And also Lauren Schneider, who gave us some insights also in the book. And you're at Our House. So Our House, if you're in Los Angeles, is just a wonderful support center for people in grief. And so I'm just so honored that both of you were here today to talk about this. I really, really appreciate both of your work and your words. So thank you for being here. It means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
All right, everyone. We will see you soon. I hope this was helpful. I'm sure it was. Thank you both for your words. Take care.